Hey everyone, it's our Shawn McBride. Welcome to another edition of Best in Events. I have my regular co-host Deirdra Watson joining me, and we have cleaning expert Christi Redfearn coming on with us. Um, one of the things we're seeing a lot as we're talking about the future of events, as we're doing this events Best in Events series, is that cleaning is going to become a much higher priority in event planning, and also something meeting planners are going to have to spend more time thinking about and negotiating. So that's why we wanted to bring you on. Christi, I know you have a large business, does a lot of commercial cleaning, including conference rooms and a lot of spaces. So why don't you give folks just a little background on you, and then
Okay,
we'll jump into some of our questions that'll hopefully be helpful for the audience.
sure. So Redley SCS is my family's business. I am third generation janitor. So I've been doing this since 1982 when I was a little kid, and whether I wanted to or not. And
Yeah.
we currently clean commercial office buildings, museums, some medical office space, some event centers for, let's see, we're in 8 states right now, and approximately 45 million square feet a night. I am a lead AP for operations and maintenance, the existing buildings version. So expert in green cleaning. We do have IICRC certified staff on our payroll, as well as we are certified as a company. And my last little bit is, if you are ever interested in finding more about the janitorial industry overall, there is an organization called ISSA, and we are SIMS GB with honors certified through them, which is an independent third-party organization that goes in and literally audits our operations, our policies, our procedures to make sure that we are doing all of the best practices that they have recommended.
Yep. Okay. And that almost leads perfectly into my first question, right? You've talked a little about the industry certifications, the checks on your procedures, right? Because if somebody calls up and hires a random cleaner, you don't know if you're going to get quality. Or if you go to a hotel and they just say, hey, we do a great job cleaning, you don't know that they do a great job cleaning, right? Because I think
Right.
the diligence is probably going to change, where meeting planners are expected to make sure that things are properly cleaned. So just kind of give us a general overview of the cleaning world, and what an event planner who's going into rent a space for a period of time, what types of things should they be thinking about? What should they be knowledgeable about? What kind of questions can they ask?
Okay. So generally speaking, cleaning in whatever form it is a product of how much labor you can put into it. A person can only clean a toilet so fast before it's not really going to be clean. In our world, in the commercial side, it is probably 60 to 70% of our overall cost. And when we first start getting going in this business way back in 1982, cleaners were expected to effectively clean about 2,500 square feet an hour. That number now has been pushed up to almost 7,000 square feet an hour in some cases. So the first thing that I see happening is that number, people are going to need to slow way down to do a real true disinfecting job of the spaces that are being cleaned. Another one is there are some technologies that are coming around that are speeding up the process. Electrostatic sprayers. We use a specific brand, the Clorox 360 program, where instead of needing to physically wipe down surfaces with disinfectant, you can walk in with a sprayer. It charges the cleaning product so that as you're 2 to 4 feet away from whatever you're cleaning, whether it be touch point surfaces like door handles or light switches or countertops or even carpeting in some cases, you're able to spray the room down essentially instead of having to wipe it down. So we've been using that for almost 2 years, primarily during cold and flu season. We've been using it a lot more lately, as you can imagine. Our machines are being used probably every hour of the day across the board this week, and we can't keep up with the number of requests that we're getting. The downside of that is right now, all of the really good disinfecting products are being, and to some extent, hand sanitizer, soaps, that kind of stuff on the commercial side is being diverted to healthcare. So trying to source some of that material right now is a lot more challenging, but luckily most larger companies do have a backstock, and that's what we have been relying on. And then as stuff comes in, we're able to replenish it. So having stuff on hand, a good inventory, making sure that your people are slowing down on their cleaning to do proper disinfecting jobs. And then finally looking at some of those technologies to speed up the process while making it just as, if not more effective.
Yeah. So the, let me ask you about that Clorox 360. What is the longevity, the surface longevity of that?
So let me make sure I'm understanding your question. So once it's sprayed, how long is it clean?
Yeah, how long does it stay on the surface and be clean?
Okay.
Because I know that there are some sanitizers, and they use them more for transportation. Mm-hmm. That can last up to like 1 year to 18 months,
right?
On those type of surfaces. So on the 360, what does that look like on the surface for longevity?
On the surface for the Clorox 360, the great thing is the ease of use. The downside is whatever surface that it's already on, because the stuff in transportation is primarily pre-treated, made with microban or different things. Right. If you're talking about a hotel room, then you can go in and treat the entire room. The second that somebody else goes in and touches that surface, it is no longer disinfected.
Okay. Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's part of the problem, right? Is, you know, even with the best chemicals and the best cleaning, right, we have to make sure we understand traffic flow and these types of things.
Absolutely.
We were talking the other day, you know, just a common example is you might have an event area at a hotel, and some hotels have controlled corridors, some don't, but you can have people passing through there. You might have a meeting starting in the morning, gets properly disinfected overnight, but somebody with an illness walks through there, heads to a pool at 6 o'clock in the morning, and by the time your attendees show up at 8 a.m., any disinfection done the night before is circumvented.
Right. Yeah. And as we've learned with COVID-19, you know, how long those surfaces stay infected with viruses or bacteria can be a lot longer than anyone really understands. So having to constantly monitor the situation, come back and do touch-up cleaning, especially focusing on high traffic areas where people are going to be walking through back and forth a lot, or the touch points, the light switches, the door handles, the elevator buttons, those kinds of things. You're going to have to be extremely diligent.
Yes, it sounds like you're going to have, you know, two key things as you look at your contract or your deal with the venue is you got to have probably some type of deep cleaning overnight on the space, and then some type of frequency for touch-up cleaning. Somebody's got to come through and wipe down the common surfaces, the hotels, the walls, the handrails, the tables that people are leaning against, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we've been, we started increasing our touch point cleaning back in late February, increasing staff to where that was the only thing that they were doing throughout the day. Was their job was to go through and make sure that touch points were increasingly cleaned so that the people who need to still come to work can do that and at least be safer.
Yeah. Is there any way to know whether, you know, the cleaning crew did a good job or whether it's safe to go back into a space? I mean, you know, the hotels are probably going to tell you, hey, we'll do a good job, don't worry. But how do you really know that it was done properly and that it's safe for your attendee?
Other than watching it yourself, it really is tough to know. That's part of what's been so difficult for our industry selling the value of clean. because in an office building, it is one of the larger monthly expenses. So pricing over the years has always been pressured more downward, and instead of staying level or anything like that, asked to do more with less, that sort of thing. But, you know, it's about 10, 12 years ago, green cleaning came along, and it was a really big deal to take out the perfumes and dyes that would trigger somebody's allergies, VOCs, that sort of thing. And we were going through and having to re-educate a lot of our clients on the smell not being there. So the fragrance chemicals, you know, you'd walk into a bathroom and it smelled like bleach or whatever, and or pine sol, and it would smell like it had been cleaned. It doesn't mean that it actually been cleaned. I mean, you know, you could have somebody be a little unscrupulous and go pour some pine sol down the drain, and that bathroom would still smell clean when in fact nothing has been done to it. So short of watching it happen firsthand, you're really going to have a lot of confidence. Look at training programs, look at scope of work, look at those kinds of things if they won't let you come in and watch it yourself.
Yeah, you know, Deirdra, this raises an interesting point, you know, more from a collective standpoint. So one thing Deirdra and I are doing is we're kind of trying to collect people together around best procedures at events. It makes you wonder, Deirdra, about whether you could potentially audit a hotel, right? So this would require some coordination among the meeting planners, but if everybody's going into a particular hotel at a particular city and it's being used for a series of conferences, it's probably not practical for somebody to go in there every night and make sure the cleaning crew does the job. But you could possibly have somebody show up one night, you know, that's coordinated with the events industry. It comes in and checks that one hotel that one night and make sure the procedures are properly followed. It would require a greater coordination, but it would give some comfort.
Well, you do hope that moving, like that hotels, when their staff is cleaning it, they have a checkpoint procedure.
Yes.
That has to be done, and they do their own internal audits. My concern would be preset rooms, because you've got everything already set. You know, they don't necessarily change the tablecloths every night if you're at an event where it's all preset.
Yeah.
So
that's probably
that
something
would
you need to look at, is either change them,
yeah.
or somebody's got to go in there and clean them every night, you know. And
that's right. You know, do they do a full change on the room? And a lot of times they don't, you know, because they'll go in and they'll clean it up, but they're not going to reset a whole room with new linens and everything, and those are all touch points.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and now we know that the virus lives, or viruses live, on fabrics and long time points. So it's something that you have to consider. What are the protocols and how are they going to be written into contracts?
Yeah. Well, you're going to have to look at their checklist, right? Somebody with knowledge is going to have to check the hotel's checklist, right? If you really want to do it properly. And then the other piece that's missing still is who checks the check, you know, who checks their checks, right? And how far back do you take it? That becomes a real question. Christi, anything practical you could do kind of for that situation with the room where you did have a setup, you know, maybe you have a 2 or 3 day conference, you go out of the space, you come back into the space. You know, what practically can they do overnight without getting super costly?
Practically, if you're looking at something that is preset, then those electrostatic sprayers for tablecloth linens, that kind of thing, would be safe to use on those fabrics. If you're talking about having full lunch plate service already set down, then I wouldn't put it on. They do have a food grade version, but the normal stuff, I wouldn't want to spray disinfectant on plates and all that kind of stuff. But unless you have the version that is safe to use in food grade spaces, some of the other things that might be worthwhile is changing how some of those rooms are set up. getting rid of some of the surfaces that are more likely for viruses to live on longer. So you're talking about the harder surfaces, the wood tables, plastics, that kind of thing, where non-porous things, so that, if something is going to live on that surface, then it's going to have surfaces where they live less time instead of longer times.
Yeah, so you may be fundamentally thinking about the layout and the types of materials used.
Right.
And also the quantity of materials.
Yep.
So basically, it may be a better idea to use a fabric because it is washable and it doesn't live as long on a fabric as it does on a wood or plastic surface.
Typically, yes. Now, every virus, of course, is different. So you have to look at what those livability times are for each situation. But normally, viruses tend to live less long on those porous, soft surfaces, especially ones that can be laundered in hot water, dried in high heat, that kind of thing. So, we all probably have seen the story of the cruise ship where 17 days later, after everyone came off, they were still finding live virus on the surface.
Yeah.
Which on a cruise ship is designed to have all of those hard surfaces to make it easier to go in and clean. Because you having to wipe down a bunch of fabric furniture, that's a lot more time consuming. So it goes against them in some ways, but for them in others. And it's just something that now we have to consider both sides of that coin when we choose materials for events.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. So I get this question sometimes as a lawyer, and I don't like it very much. So I'm going to ask you a question I don't like.
Thanks, Shawn.
You answer. So every once in a while, and I had this, and I always refuse to answer it, so I'm hoping you won't. But like another lawyer will say, well, if you were on the other side, what questions would you be asking yourself? I remember a lawyer asking me that one time, and I'm like, I can't tell you that because then I'm doing all the legal work for your side too. But if I'm a meeting planner and I'm going into a hotel or a other event space, what questions should I be asking them about their cleaning process and procedures? What kind of is my short checklist of things I want to know?
Sure. I personally would want to know specifically which disinfectant they're using. There's a lot of them out there and they're not all equal. Every disinfectant has to be registered with the EPA and it has to have the verified kill claims. So which bacteria, which viruses, all the things that it does effectively kill, which, for COVID-19, when this whole thing first started going out, every manufacturer was saying, well, we don't know if it kills COVID-19, this particular strain, because we don't have we don't have the strain to test on. So, when it was first going, it was, okay, what disinfectants kill related viruses? And that's where the list started going from. So yeah, having that EPA registration number, with that, you can basically go to the EPA's website and find the list of things that it kills with that registration number. Also, I kind of want to see their scope of work, what they do task-wise to clean a room every night. I don't know if they'll give it to you. We're required to have a scope of work for every commercial contract that we have. So we have things that we do nightly, weekly, quarterly, semi-annually, etc. And it is literally a checklist of the things that we do every night when we're cleaning. So being able to see what that would look like from a hotel would be useful to know as well. The last thing, and this would be another situation where we'd probably, I don't know if you'll get it, but it never hurts to ask, is what kind of training do cleaners have? Because a lot of people don't think about this, but you have to know to clean from high surfaces to low surfaces, because if you start low, when you start dusting and cleaning the high surfaces, those low surfaces are dirty again. just as one example. So knowing what their training protocol looks like, their scope of work, and which disinfectants they use.
Yeah, that's a good short list. Deirdra, you've been in both worlds. You've done some cleaning work, and then now you're in the
I
events.
have.
Yeah, what else is coming to your mind here?
Well, one of the things that I do when I do a site check is I actually go into the kitchen area, take a look at the washrooms, the public washrooms, because, you know, as they say, if the washrooms are clean, the kitchen is, if the washrooms aren't clean, the kitchen is not. So I always try to, you know, and I meet with housekeeping, the head of housekeeping, so that I can, you know, as Christi says, find out what their practices are. You know, find out if they do regular audits by floor, because generally each floor has a different housekeeping staff. So find out if they do, and I've been at hotels where you will see someone walking around with their clipboard, and so you know that they're probably checking on the work that's being done. And you know, it's just, as a planner, being a little bit more diligent in what our expectations are for our clients' safety, and especially on the accommodation side.
Yeah.
And making sure that those rooms they're clean, and you know, the biggest problem is remote controls, right? So everybody's going to be worried about picking up a remote control now. I know some have put like them in sleeves and things like that. So it's just being a little bit more diligent in what we're doing on our site checks. What are the protocols that the hotel is using? You know, and really doing a very thorough walkthrough. And yeah, there's some areas that the hotel, like the chains, don't want you to go through, but you know, we're bringing as planners, we bring a lot of business to the hotels and convention centers.
Well, and I think we're going to hit a very crucial period here when we get into the fall, where the negotiations are going to get reset, right? And does it become, hey, you know, you're going to show me all your stuff, or I'm not going to book with you, or do the hotels take the power, right? That's an open issue right now.
Yeah, and we're already seeing wording changing in regards to force majeure.
Yep.
So it will happen in regards to the sanitation protocols.
Yeah, and I think here's a chance where if you get enough people together, you can actually change the culture, right? You can say, we won't book with you unless you let me see your cleaning checklist, unless you let me know about the training of your people, potentially, depending on the size of your event, of course, too.
Right. You know, and that even includes, you know, the non-traditional venues. For example, Christi, you were saying that you clean museums,
Mm-hmm.
right? So museums are used for larger events as well.
Absolutely.
So what are their different protocols for their sanitation procedures? So it's looking at all the different variables for the different venues. Even if you're going to, you know, a restaurant that provides catering services, you know, what are their protocols at that restaurant if you're doing an offsite?
Yeah, it adds a lot of diligence work, doesn't it? I mean, because and you think about an offsite, you know, from the venue out the door, onto a bus, potentially off to the venue, out of the bus, into the restaurant. That's a lot of surfaces.
Yeah, it is.
It's a mess of surfaces. Christi, anything else we should be thinking about, or anything else be good for the meeting planners to know or think about with cleaning?
If you ever are talking about giveaways, then I would suggest, I know Deirdra, you and I talked when we were prepping for this, hand sanitizer always goes over well. I'd even take it one step further. There are personal packages of disinfecting wipes. So being able to give those to each of your attendees. So, you know, yes, they are disinfecting wipes and they're effective, but it's also that peace of mind that you can give that to somebody and then they can go in and take 10 wipes or whatever and wipe down what they may be concerned about in their room. Because that's probably going to be different for different people. So, you know, maybe considering throwing that in as part of the package in some way could help ease some fears. because I'm guessing that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be pretty hesitant to travel. One, because we've been locked up in our houses for 6 weeks and we're just used to that now. But two, because, you know, we don't know what the future holds for this particular virus and what anything else could be in the future. We don't know if it's going to come back with a vengeance in the fall. We don't even know if it's going to really die down in the summer. So just that calming reassurance to help give people a reason to feel good about going back into these kinds of situations where they have so little control over what's clean and what's not.
Yeah, and I don't usually like the idea of shifting burdens to attendees, but
Sure.
given the massive amount of labor and the massive number of surfaces to use hand sanitizers, wipes, I think that can add a lot of comfort and distribute some of the labor in a way that's just practical, because it's impossible to have somebody in there cleaning everything 24/7.
Yeah.
Well, so my question for you, Christi, is, as a planner, if I'm going to be on site for 5 or more days, I generally will not get housekeeping until like the 3rd day I'm in.
Okay.
Because it's kind of one of those, you know, for me, it's the less people coming into my room, the better.
Sure.
Because I generally have a lot of sensitive stuff, sensitive material, or I have product or whatever. So what are your thoughts in regards to that? If someone's in, say, accommodations on a longer term, say a week to 10 days or even more,
right.
What are your thoughts on how often they should have that room cleaned? And I know some hotels are like, well, change your towels every 3-4 days or whatever. But, you know, what are your thoughts in regards to that?
Me personally, if I saw that the cleaning staff was wearing gloves, and this is another thing to consider, do they change gloves when they clean each room? So, you know, it's yes and no. For me personally, I think I would feel better if someone was properly cleaning my room every day, as opposed to having them come in every few days. But again, that goes to what are their procedures for cleaning each room, because we know that they're probably going to be on higher alert going forward. So and gloves are harder to get right now. Everybody's using, I mean, unless you want to look in a grocery center parking lot, at least in my world, but it's one of those, you know, are they changing them between each room? Are they wearing masks? Are they using an electrostatic system to clean and disinfect as opposed to wiping down surfaces? So, you know, it kind of goes down to what's your personal comfort level and what do you see them doing and how are they doing it to get to what you're comfortable with. Because if I were to go to a hotel where maybe it's a smaller independent hotel and maybe they don't have the resources, yeah, maybe then I would say, don't worry about coming in. But if it's a major chain and they have the resources to provide all the personal protective equipment to their people, to invest in electrostatic machines, to put in all the work to do it right, then if I saw it happening, then I'd probably say, yeah, go ahead, come in and spray my room.
Yeah, that's a lot more diligence than I've typically seen in hotels.
Yeah. Do you think that the possibilities of new protocols will actually increase the hiring of labor?
I would imagine so. It's hard to tell for sure. At least in my world right now, we've had, you know, the non-essential businesses asking for suspension of service since they're shut down or reduced services. But at the same time, those essential businesses that are going, we've had to move staff around to meet the increased demand of the cleaning for those kinds of businesses. So
Okay.
It'll be interesting because it's going to be right now, unemployment is a lot higher, but in the cleaning world, if you have one building that says, yeah, we're going to shut down services because we're non-essential, then those cleaners are going to have a job that night at a different facility and they're going to stay working. So, or they're going to go to Amazon and work in a warehouse or whatever.
Yeah.
So I do see labor increasing, but with that is going to come pricing pressures moving upward because it's going to be a tight market to hire those people to do the work.
Yeah. So it creates jobs, but unfortunately from the meeting planning standpoint, we're looking at another area of cost, right? Because the more
Exactly.
the cleaning is, the more downstream costs, and that's all going to get put into your hotel bill in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
Yeah, and our service costs on events and accommodations are high as it is.
Yeah.
So now we have to add in additional factors of the sanitation and cleaning.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's going to take time to reach what the right level is a uniform system. Like, how much risk do you take? But it's definitely looks like it's another area of cost that's going to add to it. That's so excellent, Christi. Well, why don't you tell folks how they can reach out to you if people have specific questions, or maybe if there's a particular project. I know you guys have footprint throughout parts of the United States, so
Sure.
they know how to learn more about your company and get in touch with you.
So there's always our website, redleescs.com, REDLEESCS.com. From there, there's a couple of contact pages. You can always find me on LinkedIn. Readily available to answer questions. Feel free to message me, whatever. And yeah, those are the two primary ways to get in touch with me professionally.
Perfect. Folks, would love any of your feedback or questions. Either drop them on Best in Events on YouTube. That's our YouTube channel. Or you can put them over on LinkedIn for me or Deirdra. You'll see these videos popping up sporadically. We want to know what your questions are and what we can help you with. Christi, thanks for an excellent segment and helping us so much.
Thanks for having me.
Want to ask everybody else
Thank
out there,
you.
pat yourself on the back for doing the hard work and investing in yourself. Make sure you're subscribed to the Best in Events YouTube channel when you're joining us over on Facebook in our Facebook group, and we'll catch you all again very soon.
Thanks, Christi. Thanks, Shawn.